Hey everyone, and thank you so much for joining our stream today. Today we have a very interesting topic that's called how to navigate job market at the times of crisis and how to grow your career. So we have four amazing experts with us today, four amazing Belarusian Americans. So let me introduce you to each one of them. First of all, we have Hanna Sharko, who works as a technical recruiter at the one of the world's largest staffing companies, Tech Systems. Hi, Hanna. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So we also have Alexandra Romanenko, who is an associate attorney at the law firm, at also one of the major law firms, Auden and Golden LLP. She specializes in everything that's connected with law and job market. She specializes in negotiations, disputes, and everything that's connected with representing employees. Hi, Alexandra, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we also have Kate Khatseyeva, a professional business and leadership coach from Stanford University in Silicon Valley. Hi, Kate.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting.
Thanks for joining us today. Thank you, everyone who are joining us live this afternoon or evening if you are in the East Coast. Thank you for taking your time. This topic is indeed very, very important because we live in the unprecedented time when it comes to economy. No one really knows what's coming. We have a lot of layoffs, job cuts. There is a looming recession. If we look at the classical financial definition of recession, we are already in one, but we're going to get some very contradictory statements. So we've gathered our experts today who are connected with the job market on a day-to-day basis, just to ask their opinion about questions that are important to all of us. We have a number of questions that we have already selected from our audience before the stream, but every single viewer will be able to ask questions that are important to them. So please don't be shy. Drop your questions in the comments to this video. And let's begin. So my first question is essentially the very topic of this discussion: how to maintain and grow your career in the times of crisis, in the times of layoffs, cuts, and everything else. Hanna, let's start with you. What's your professional feedback as a technical recruiter?
As you mentioned about recession time, and I was just checking some statistics before I joined the call, and I was a little surprised. I thought the numbers a little lower than right now, but it's till today, like we have 44,000 people in tech who got laid off. In like specifically in the United States, and between them like huge companies with the names like Microsoft, Spotify, Shopify, Twitter, Oracle. And as far as I know, like with people I speak in every day on the phone, we do have a lot of QA or product managers and front-end engineers, back-end engineers, iOS engineers. Like it looks like they're through all spectrum of different tech jobs. It's not just a specific layer. So what is like how to maintain is to keep yourself updated with all information, including, first of all, information like what is the hottest skill set on the market. Like, for example, Java developers or Python developers, no matter what's going on in the market, they are on fire. We're looking for them through entire like different industries. Or like if we're talking about industries, financial sector or healthcare, this is like more secure right now where you can find a job. It's been secure during pandemic and it's still staying secure right now. Still like all this inflation concerns, geopolitical issues, rising interests and rates reflects market and stock market with startups. It's getting like harder to get a job in not to get a job. It's harder to get investment, raising funds during that time. So for people with the startups, it's time for you to worry about like where like what's their fund, like what's the fund of your company, where like what's the investments, where are you right now, will you be able to work in 3 months or 4 months? Because I got a lot of calls with Belarusians, and not only Belarusians who are saying, hey, I'm stable and like everything is fine. It was 2 weeks ago, and now they call me and saying, hey, actually they laid me off. So like they let me go and I need to find a job. Like, what should I do? Where should I start? So basically just keep yourself updated in like what sectors, industries, better way to check it through Crunchbase and TechCrunch, in Business Insider, like to see what's going on in the market in general and like where you need to move.
Thank you, Hannah. Alexandra, maybe you can add something as well from your experience as a lawyer.
Yeah, so even, we as a firm represent only employees, and we also see an uptick of layoffs, especially in the tech industry lately. But also, rumors are that Goldman Sachs is laying people off. So, which is an indication of an upcoming recession potentially. And we always, we'll talk to a person. What's going on? Is it the layoff? What is actually happening? Who are the companies selected for a layoff? Probably most of Americans, most of Belarusians know that, labor and employment laws are not really protective of employees in the United States. And, you can be terminated for any reason or no reason at all. It's an at-will employment. And so, yes, companies have a right to conduct reductions in force, do layoffs, but there is a major exception to the at-will rule, which is is the decision to terminate based on discrimination. And here, everything comes into play. Look at what was happening before the layoff. Has your employer, supervisor made any comments to you, or maybe you had a conflict about, It really depends, but if it is a Belarusian or Ukrainian employee, and there have been some topics about politics or criticism on your accent, for example, like even things like that can lead you to believe, and then your lawyers to believe that maybe the decision to select you personally for a layoff instead of John Smith, who does exactly the same thing, next door, was kept employed. Things like taking maternity leave. Maybe you just came back from the leave and they're laying people off and you're selected. But, again, this anonymous John Smith remains employed and everything is fine, and he continues his career in the organization. So, there are some critical, questions and, critical approach that needs to be taken. And don't give up, that easily, that, yes, they can do it, and therefore I will just depart on, without the fight. Sometimes a fight is needed, and, you will probably have a hunch that something is off with their decision to select me. And then, a lawyer can help you navigate it if needed, or you can try to negotiate your exit package and get better terms. It all depends on the situation. I guess my main advice is to think about it and don't take it as granted. Think things can be negotiated, and a lot of the times there are reasons beyond just the need to reduce force that are in play, and the way companies are selecting who to lay off plays into consideration.
So my next question is actually specifically about the steps, what an employee can take if he or she get laid off. So can you specify the steps that you would recommend your clients?
So, okay, so you're told, okay, we're selecting you for reduction in force. Your last day is in a month, like in a few weeks, and here's your severance agreement. Or maybe there isn't a severance agreement. what are the steps? Well, first of all, just check in with yourself. Do you, is there something that's bothering you about this decision? Or, did you have it coming, so to speak? Did you have like major performance issues and now this is not a surprise? Maybe that's it. Maybe, there is nothing under the law that's possible to do. But, what if something is off? What if you just came back from a maternity leave? What if there was some comments and some tensions, internally, and, just have an internal check-in with yourself. What do you think about this decision, right? And, then it depends. You can try to contact an attorney, a lot of people would be willing to talk to you and just, give you a gut check of what's happening here. And let's say, okay, the attorney maybe recommended to you, okay, you can try to negotiate yourself. Maybe there is nothing much, I cannot take the case. It doesn't mean that you can just stop and, do nothing. Even if you don't have a legal case, you can still try to negotiate an exit package. And maybe the next step, again, depends on the situation, but a lot of the time it's a conversation with your supervisor or the decision maker behind, how much severance you're getting. Sometimes it is HR. And, a lot of the time that they're willing to negotiate. And, you can write an email, a complaint to HR and complain about the severance package or the absence of it, and try your best to get something in return. And, usually I say it doesn't hurt to do it. But of course, there are things like professional reputation, and you may not want to write something extraordinarily aggressive or negative and something that may affect your career going forward. But many times, just a regular conversation with employer will result in some increase in package. And then if there is a legal case here, and then I highly recommend, hiring an attorney, and they will guide you through the process. But, there is a possibility of sending a letter, filing a charge with administrative agencies, EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Committee, or a state equivalent of this agency. Maybe you file a lawsuit at the end of the day. Can happen, but it's really a step-by-step process and decision that a lawyer will navigate for you and with you.
Thank you, Alexandra. I also have a question to Kate connected with this. So Kate, as a professional business and leadership coach, what can you recommend in terms of mental perspective? Because layoffs most of the time are associated with stress and anxiety. So what can you recommend to a person who just experienced it? How to get back on their feet, to get back on track?
Well, first of all, just stay calm, because it can happen to anyone and nobody's protected from being laid off. So just to be calm as much as possible, and to think about what are you actually feeling, and talk to someone like your family or your friends or your support group. It's very important. So you just don't be by yourself with all these feelings. You just need to talk about it to someone. And if you need a professional help, don't hesitate, ask for this help. Probably it's your therapist, probably it's your coach, or just a friend. You just need to talk about it. And also you need to talk to your family. So if you start to suspect some movements around, so you need to talk to your family first, if you have one. So it will not be a surprise to everyone. And of course, being laid off, it's very hard because probably it's your only source of income, and you will be out of this income for a certain period of time. So you need to be prepared for that and think about your emergency fund. And you need to talk about this again with your family and decide if you're in a saving mode right now, or how you gonna what you're gonna do with your finances. So it's really, really important. And when you have kind of predictability or stability around your finances, it will be less stressful. So that's what I will recommend, just to talk, don't be by yourself.
Thank you, Kate. That's a very valuable advice. So Hannah, I have a question to you. So as a professional recruiter, and you work in tech mostly, so this is a very competitive area just by default. Do you work with people who just lost their jobs? Because obviously there is certain type of stigma, you know, if someone has lost the job, maybe he or she is not such a good specialist. So do you work with those people? And if yes, what are your typical recommendations to them?
Oh, yes, that's unfortunately, but I hear this message like, hey, I was laid off and I need some help on the market. It's not because of my performance and because of this and because of that, just please help me to find a job as soon as possible. As Kate mentioned, this is my only income like source. So I need to support my family. So first I always suggest like, hey, when did it happen? So like take time, step back to process. And going back to what Alexander said, internally thinking like, what happened? How can I change it? Is there any chance to negotiate that? So will be second step, I always recommend to seek legal counsel to help you review this, any agreements your company asks you to sign, and then negotiate the terms of your departure. So like it's regular, Alexander can help me here, but sometimes we see more often like 2 weeks of severance, but some people after negotiation can ask for months or even more. So like it's at least some kind of secure time when you can look for a job. And it's not like nothing going on in the market right now. I'll say like last 2 weeks was like, well, little scary for me. I was afraid there was gonna really like a freeze, hiring freeze, but yeah, we see there like a significant drop in job opportunities that were open last week. Like last month, I wouldn't even say, but still we see people hiring and company hiring. And I was today recruiting the entire day because it was like 3 opportunities open. There is like no candidates. And I'm like, okay, where to find them, you know? And I know one of our Belarusian, like who called me and asked me for like to help me to get a job for him. He was really like smart going, he posted on his social media, he went to his network, he went back to his old emails, some recruiters sent to him an email to each of them, like saying, hey, I'm looking for a job. I just, they let me go. So I just need to find something to support my family. If you can help me, I'm a great specialist in this and that area. And he said like in the first 3 hours, he got 15 calls. So people are looking for candidates. And if you're not scared to show like you are vulnerable or you need a help, and that's basically, I mean, for example, in New York, there is a lot of recruiting companies. If you just need to do their click on the social media and LinkedIn, and a lot of people will reach out to you. And of course, like there is some niche skill set. There is something like we see more, for example, in QA world, more people on the market right now. And yes, maybe you will not be hired for the same salary because a lot of companies taking advantage of that the market right now has a big pool of candidates, but just be smart, like organize your job search, having like Excel file or whatever you're working with, Airtable, Trello, so you know where did you apply, what you want, and yeah, stay confident because a lot of people wanted, as I said, taking advantage, like, oh, you've been laid off, so let's give you like 20K less. So no, just stay where you are. So if you know that you are a great specialist in your skill set, there is not going to be a problem that you get a job. Market is not like down yet. So we still have opportunity to find a job.
That's actually a very great point, Hannah. And someone in our live chat also pointed out that any end is a fresh start. And I actually agree, because all the time when something is ending, most likely something new is beginning. So we also have to keep this in mind. So let's get to the nitty-gritty. When an employee gets laid off, there are severance packages, but under the law, an employer is not usually required to provide it, right, Alexandra? And so some employers just don't. But let's talk about those who do. Could you briefly describe what types of severance packages are there? What's good, what's not good?
Yes, sure. So there is no law that requires to provide a severance, and it really varies by employer what they are willing to provide. It's also, there is no like standard per se what the severance should be. You know, some partners at my firm who's been practicing for many years will tell you that back in the day it was like 3 weeks per year of service, and that's actually really you know, great, you know, nowadays. And I don't see that happening a lot unless you know, negotiate. But a week per year of service is, you know, pretty standard. 2 weeks per year of service, you know, is, you know, pretty good. I haven't seen anything more than 2 weeks per year of service. You know, in a standard situation when there is no discrimination and we haven't negotiated something more. There is another thing that I think is important to know. Some companies have what's called ERISA plans, and these are really plans that apply to all employees, and they're registered with, you know, they're published. And then a ERISA plan can provide for severance plan, like a severance plan, a severance, you know, agreement almost that the company agreed to do to provide in case of reductions in force. And it's a good news and bad news, because good news is that, you know, anyone will get some minimal severance according to the plan. The bad news is that it's more difficult to negotiate this this package, because it's, you know, typically they have to deviate from this agreement, this plan that applies to everyone. There have to be some exigent circumstances, like a really serious discrimination claim, sexual harassment claim, something that stands out and where you file a lawsuit or file administrative charge, and they really need to, you know, to settle with you to justify deviation from the plan. You can find a lot of them online, actually, because they're published, or you can ask your employer to provide you with the ERISA plan, and many times you won't know if there is a plan, and it, you know, in the document provided to you, it won't say, you know, this is according to our ERISA plan that you're receiving this agreement. And you know, sometimes it's good to ask, like, hey, is it according? Do you have any severance plan in place? And HR will tell you, and they have to provide you with ERISA plan terms in this case, and you can check if everything is complied with, and you will also know if it makes sense to negotiate, because if you really don't have strong claims, then it's hard to do it. So, you know, and yes, Anna, you're correct that, you know, for like some short-term employment, a lot of the time is just 2 weeks. I don't know how employers came up with this severance package, but I do see for, you know, for some like entry-level positions or people who just, you know, worked in the company for, you know, less than a year, I wouldn't be surprised to see 2 weeks, and, you know, maybe just a slight negotiation will get you to a month. But again, if it is a serious case and, you know, we see a pattern practice of some sort of discrimination, it can be negotiated to a much higher number. It really depends on the circumstances. I hope I answered this.
Yes, thank you. And actually, I have just a follow-up question. So in the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned about discrimination lawsuits. Sometimes it happens on the basis of national origin. Since February of this year, have you seen more of these lawsuits or less?
I've seen, this is a very special topic. I guess a lot of the time nowadays, it's hard to show discrimination to begin with, but American companies are really trained not to give you any reason to think it's because of your national origin. However, I do see clients even in really senior positions that have great, and in technology and finance areas, with sophisticated employers who still do make discriminatory statements and pretty egregious. And I don't think, a lot of them realize what they're doing. And, it doesn't have to happen in the workplace. Sometimes you go to a bar and your supervisor starts going off on, what's going on in the world and, shows some bias towards your nationality or has some stereotypes about your nationality. And, I can provide some examples, but, I don't really need to. I think a lot of people know what stereotypes are associated with different nationalities. And it's really can be hurtful, and the person can be oblivious to it. And, it's something to keep in mind. But I think, specifically answering the questions, is it more, do I see more of the discrimination based on the national origin in recent months? I would say yes, but that's just because there have been more layoffs. It's just the numbers game. The more cases we have, the more chances there are that there are, claims for national origin discrimination.
So Hannah, the next question would be to you. It's just a very short question. Could you, maybe already, there are more layoffs, but do you have a number in your head? Like, what's the increase in percentage recently?
I'm not sure about the percentage, but since the beginning this year, in general in the country, 2.5 millions. But in the tech world, as I said, last week, I was checking a 44,000 in tech world. But I'm saying it's still a huge number for just specific industry. And I see a lot of people finding the job. So I think they will remove, for example, if somebody was laid off in March, and by August they found the job, they will not be considered as there's someone who just not having employment right now. So I'm not. This is number 44K.
44K. That's still a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Do you have any comparison with previous year?
There was last year was more not a layoff, but resignation. I remember September, October, a lot of people decided, hey, why I'm not changing my job? I'm tired to be here. And a lot of people start moving, but mostly what companies saying, they were over hiring during the rapid growth of their companies. And everybody expected, hey, after we've been freezed and didn't hire for 2020 and 2021, so let's hire more people. And by the end of last year, it was so many companies hired like crazy because they had budgets, because they saved that budgets during the quarantine, right? And now quarantine, and now it's a different situation. Now they're saying, okay, it's too many people, too many hands on deck, so we need to short them. That's kind of the situation, but I don't have any honestly percentage. I was not checking that.
Mm-hmm. But generally in your practice, do you meet a lot of people who just lost their jobs and are looking for a new one?
I'll say out of 100 interviews that I have each week, decent number, 10-15% I get on the phone, people saying they being laid off. So like they need something to find. And I've never heard it before, like not so many people like this time. And it started like middle of summer, July, August. And then now it's just been more and more often. I can hear people saying, yeah, I need a job because I'm not in with this company and not by my will. So that's just my personal statistics.
Thank you, Hannah. So now let's talk a little bit more about the employer side. So what are the steps an employer should take if the decision has been made and layoff is inevitable? What can you recommend, Alexandra, just to make it the least painful experience?
The least painful experience for what? For terminations?
Yes. So let's say there is a company and the company made a decision to terminate a certain number of employees. What steps would you recommend to take for that company or the business owner, that startup founder, to make this experience the least painful for them? Because we cannot forget about our business owners and startup founders who are also watching us right now, because everyone is going through the same situation.
Right. Well, I represent employees only, not the companies, but from my perspective, to make it the most painless for you is, don't discriminate, right? Like there needs to be some business reason behind the decision. And, I think it's a good business practice if you, memorialize your thinking, why was it a business decision, why these decisions were made. There need to be some objective criteria for selection of those employees, and check for unconscious bias as well, because that's something that may be a blind spot for many employers. And oops, all of a sudden I only selected Belarusians and no one else. Just check how does it look, what are the optics of your selection? Or like, oops, I selected only women. And maybe numbers make sense, but optics, unconscious bias are real, and it's a lot of the time we can make a case just based on statistics and comparisons. You selected people over 40, or most of them are older, and that's actually pretty common in tech industry, age discrimination. I don't know if it's very important for our listeners, but it's prevalent, and many times like that's the area where employers may be oblivious because they think it's a business reason, and they say like, oh, like younger people work faster and they connect better, and it's just better to keep our workforce very young. These are the comments that are interestingly very common, and make sure you understand that this is unlawful, and companies can get in trouble for this kind of rhetoric and decision making based on some criteria that's unlawful. And so other than that, if you treat your employees with respect and dignity on your way out, our founding partner likes to say, like, look, we wouldn't have like 50% of our cases only if the companies would treat their employees with respect and dignity during the termination. And it makes a lot of difference if you approach every person with understanding and explain the reasons, and pretty much explain that it's nothing personal, and I'm happy to provide you a letter of recommendation. Maybe please put me as a reference. It makes a huge difference rather than just a cold-hearted approach and send in a termination email and an agreement to sign. So it's true that this actually I've seen many times. We wouldn't have a case if you just treated that person a little bit better on their way out.
Yeah, that makes a really good point. Thank you. And now my question to Kate. So as a business and Hannah too, Kate, as a business and leadership coach, what do you typically recommend your business clients when they come to you with questions about layoffs?
Of course, first of all, you need to host the meetings and you need to be able to answer on all questions and don't avoid uncomfortable questions. So people just need to know what actually happened and what's going to happen next. And they need to have some kind of security or predictability. They need to be sure that they're not going to be next one who will be laid off. So it's already issues with the trust, and that's what company need to work on. They need to restore and win trust back, because when people start to be laid off, a lot of people, they just losing trust to the company. And that's a very, very important issue, and companies need to address this issue. Also, they need to take care of the mental health, because when people are laid off and when you don't see your colleague, you was working for a couple of years close to you anymore. So of course you can be very anxious and you will start to be very nervous, and you need to talk to someone. And if your company will provide you an opportunity where you can find a mental health support, that's also very important. And last, I will say, invest some time and probably some funds for informal gatherings. People just need to be closer. They just need to talk about it. They just need to talk about the feelings. And you just need to provide the space or opportunity, or just to talk to your leadership team that just gather together and talk about it.
Thank you, Kate. Hannah, you wanted to add something as well, right?
Yeah, I actually wanted to back up on the comment that Alexandra said about people discrimination. A lot of companies don't think there will also discrimination if they put in a list of people they need to lay off, if there's everybody there from boot camps or courses been hired, right? Instead of just getting like bachelor's degree from Ivy League or very famous colleges. I see that pretty often. And like a lot of managers kind of saying, well, they're not good enough for this like opportunity because they don't have this bachelor's degree and specific in computer science. As we know right now, like so many boot camps and so many people are working in the industry, finish these boot camps, and they're not less greater, not less good than other candidates just because they didn't make their choice to get a bachelor's degree earlier, right? And backing up their point with respectful process, we know a famous case with better.com when CEO fired people through Zoom and didn't answer questions and then brought it to Reddit. So basically, if you are great company, like leader, company founder and manager, please be so respectful, as Kate said and Alexandra. Provide all needed support in many ways, because people are people. You never know, maybe in 3-4 months everything changed and you will need this person back. And if everything went well, they will be happy to join your team again and work with you side by side and support your business, because they already know what they've done and what they can do, and they will trust more, and there will be more more motivation to work with you than just in case.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. So I know, Hannah, you mentioned a little bit in the very beginning about the professions that are being laid off most of all right now. Can you maybe reiterate just the list of the professions and then tell us what professions are more stable, what industries are more stable right now?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. I've been asking a lot of candidates, like, what was their phases in your company? So first phase, people from sales, business analysts who collect these business requirements, UI UX designers, they go first. Then the second phase will be QA team and product manager, project manager, product owners. And then we will go more for front-end developers, because full stack developers or back-end developers who can stay and maintain the entire system, they kind of feel more safe in that situation, right? And then in between, like maybe get into developers, sometimes they go in for the higher management, saying like, well, we cut a lot of people, so we don't need 3 managers for 3 people, right? So we need to let you go too. So basically, if you're in like a first 2-3 phases, like skill set, like I mentioned, just think about like, how can you get some courses or improve your skills, just update your resume, just be ready to like, you see their market, what's happening in the market. It doesn't mean like you have to go and like run and apply for a lot of jobs just to have like to be secured. No, it's just in case, keep everything updated, as I said at the beginning. And it's important your skill set is something, you know what's going on, and your skill set is on fire, I'll say. Even if it's like QA, and if you know some automation, not just manual, or you slowly transfer into automation, that's great too. So like kind of make some ways to keep yourself as a good resource, and at the same time like be like a good talent, and that will help you.
Thank you, Hannah. So next question is about red flags. A lot of times layoffs happen unexpectedly. We've heard some stories here on this webinar, how someone just fired a bunch of people through Zoom, etc. But there are typically certain red flags that can be present, even if the company is performing relatively well. So can you share your experience? What are those flags, and what should we watch out for? Maybe let's start with Alexandra.
Right, I'm trying to think. I mean, there are definitely red flags for individual employees termination, negative feedback, performance improvement plans, but in terms of reduction in force, a lot of the times maybe you won't, at least in my experience, it's not as evident, although there may be chatter, and maybe you'll see like reduction in the amount of work you're doing, or you have less clients all of a sudden, and you're just scraping for work, and feel uncomfortable that there isn't much coming your way. Other than that, it's not not something I know a lot about, but just in general, like, yeah, if you think that you're not working a lot, or you're put on all kinds of improvement plans, it's probably a big red flag.
So is there anything that would distinguish just improvement plan or like performance plan? Is there anything to distinguish just the good intention of the company owner that wants all employees to perform with hidden kind of layoff intention? Is there anything that you can point out?
Most of the people who come to us with the performance improvement plans are laid off eventually. So in my experience, it's just a step to lay someone off, to terminate their employer, and the company wants to paper their decision. I mean, I assume there are situations, and many situations, where people get out of the performance improvement plans, but then they just don't become our clients, and I wouldn't know much about that. But it's rare in my experience that a person survives the plan and continues a productive career in the company. However, I think it's also the attitude of the person. It's not always the case that the company is predetermined to fire you. Many clients who came to me during the plan, and we worked like behind the scenes, and I gave some advice, actually turned things around, because I think it's such a negative situation to be in, and it's very hard to remain motivated and positive about it and treat it in a positive way, that a lot of people just kind of roll with the punches and eventually like escalate the conflict somehow and exit. But it's possible to turn it around a lot of the times. It's just it's probably hard psychologically to be in this situation. So in my experience, a lot of it just results in eventual termination. Yeah.
Thank you. Hannah, next you. So what would you say? What's your experience with the red flags?
First, I think if we go for corporations, attend meetings that's like corporation wide, and mostly that's as a practice, people saying, oh, we have new hires. And if there is no new hires a week, a 2, a 3, it's a big red flag. So something's going wrong with the company, and you need to expect like either layoff or like, it's just not like a hiring freeze. The regular, goes to side by side, hiring freeze and layoff. And also check their, like, where is the company on the market, stock market, right? Where is stocks? Is it going down or going up? And if you see like people from sales and business analysts, like who collects business requirements, going out of the company, and they say, no, they just want to change their career or whatever, it's also a red flag. So because these people who are going to be first get under this, I will say, knife of cutting people out of their company, right? So this is like red flags for me. And as a startup, as I said, again, if it's not an IPO, just check what is their investment. It's actually funds, and how much money your company got from investors. It's actually public information most of the time. And so like if there is any projects new launching, right? So it's a good sign. So company is growing, and it's like more, but it's always can happen something, right? But still, like, it's a good sign. But if it's opposite, like, oh, this project was not bringing money to the company, we're gonna terminate this project. So it's also like not a great sign. I would start to think of like updating resume and like checking the market, like what's going on there.
This is also a very good point. Kate, what about you? From the mental perspective, what would be the red flags that you would recommend to watch out for?
Well, first of all, I asked my friends if they noticed any red flags when they was laid off. And most of them said that a lot of meetings, actually, it's a very, very good sign that something is going on. When your leadership team hosting a lot of meetings and they are talking about something and you don't know what they're talking about. So there's kind of a lot of movements around, but nobody can tell you what's going on. So at this time, you can start to suspect something is not right. So when you see a lot of activities and nobody's sharing with you what's going on, so just keep your eyes open. And also you can find some red flags. If you're very active in your industry, you will notice it. So I always recommend to be active in your industry, in your field, and be part of some professional communities, because if somebody is not sharing within your company, probably some other people will share with you based on their perspective, based on their experiences. So you always need to be part of some professional communities, and you need to follow the trends. So that's the best way to keep updated, to know what's going on.
That makes sense. Actually, we also got some good comments from the chat. Always pay attention to your manager's attitude to your performance. I think this is also what Alexandra brought up with performance improvement plans, and pay attention to changes in corporate priorities. So yes, this is important. We have about 10 minutes left, so we're going to be switching to questions from the audience and from questions that present to us through our social media. And in the meantime, I want to thank, first of all, our experts for joining us today, and thank our viewers as well. I know a lot of people will watch it in a recording, but still, when you're able to participate live, I think that's the best way to participate. So for the questions, I will switch to Belarusian because we're still Belarusian Business Association. And even though we're open to everyone, doesn't matter if you're Belarusian or no, we still want to emphasize our language and our culture. So I will switch to Belarusian, but if you're watching us right now and you do not know Belarusian, please do not feel left out. You can always ask us questions in English and we'll reply in English. So one of the questions that came to us in the chat, and I think this is the question to you, Hannah, and I'll switch to Belarusian. Калі у аднаго і таго ж чалавека адныя і тыя ж прафесіянальныя рысы, каго вы абярэце для прафесіі?
Професіональные рысы, я так разумею, напэўне,
резюме.
Ну, гэта больш проста гаворыць пра тое, што чалавек увесь час заставаўся, як кажуць, у сваіх межах, і it's окей. Галоўнае проста, напрыклад, ну, я перавяду больш на тое, што я працую з UI-дэвелаперамі, так, у большасці сваёй ўсё ж такі. І, напрыклад, калі гэты чалавек працуе пастаянна з адным нейкім фреймворкам, напрыклад, React, і ўвесь час ён з React, або там працаваў з JavaScript як мовай, і пасля стаў Angular апошні там год, і хоча больш Angular, але працаваў дагэтуль React, хутчэй за ўсё я буду запрашаць яго на працу, дзе React, таму што яго там больш досведу, але ёсць проста людзі, которые генералісты, а есть люди, которые постоянно у некую нишу накіраваны, ну і яны пастаянна гэтым знаходзяцца, ну я не лічу, што гэта дрэнна, наадварот, это больш гаворы пра іх досвед у нейкай адной нішы і пастаянны. Это просто трэба будзе знайсці працу спецыяльную каманду, але як я заўсёды кажу, на каждый кожны прадукт знойдзе свайго прадаўца, набывацеля, пакупацеля, таму заўсёды знойдзецца той, хто для гэтага чалавека знойдзецца яго каманда, просто трэба шукаць. Вось і ўсё. Ну, гэта плюс.
Дзякуй, Ганна. Наступнае пытанне да Каці, і я просто процитую яго. Катерина с удовольствием посмотрела на канале LiveFEED ваше интервью в нескольких сериях. Интересно было бы увидеть продолжение в развитии темы, как справиться с ностальгией.
Раз вопрос на русском, я отвечу на русском. Как справиться с ностальгией? В этот момент, мне кажется, люди начинают сравнивать, как было здесь, как было там, а вот мне этого не хватает, того не хватает, и это здесь не так, и трава там была зеленее. И вот когда начинают возникать такие мысли, то нужно себя выбросить в новое окружение, нужно себя полностью погрузить, такой immersive experience сделать себе, перестать сравнивать, потому что это ни к чему хорошему, продуктивному обычно не приводит, и просто стараться быть более открытым и принимать разные точки зрения, разные опыты, пробовать как можно больше новых вещей, чтобы у нас формировались новые нейронные связи, потому что ностальгия — это приятное, меланхоличное чувство, но оно абсолютно непродуктивное. Поэтому быть открытым новому опыту, всему новому.
Дякую. І апошняе пытанне, яно прыйшло до нас пра сацыяльныя сеткі. Пытанне зноў да страціў працу вось толькі што ты яму парэкамендуеш зрабіць як рэкрутер, як зрабіць так, каб рэзюмэ не выглядала недасканала?
Хай дасылаюць сваё рэзюмэ мне. Не знаю, гэтым папрацуем. Гэта будзе прасцей сказаць. Ёсць шмат розных ресурсаў, я магу проста падаслаць эти ресурсы, examples, прыклады рэзюмэ, як іх лепш афармляць. Памятаць, што лепшае рэзюмэ гэта ў той, у которым больш keywords, то есть то бок слоў, которые skillset, на куды збіраюцца ісці працаваць, так? Таксама, просто фармат важны, каб application tracking system у Амерыцы, пра іх можна паўсюль пачытаць шмат артыкулаў, як яны правяраюць, які павінен быць фармат. А пра тыя крокі казала ўжо гэта і Саша, і Катя. Спачатку зрабіць крок назад, падумаць, якой зараз чэк сітуацыі, прыйсці да того моманту, чаму ўсё ж такі ён або яна былі скасаваны з працы, то бок іх звольнілі, і чаму, ці магчыма ў дадзенай сітуацыі, калі не задавальняюць нейкія умовы, звярнуцца да адваката або легальнага эксперта, который можа падказаць, што на якіх умовах можна нешта для сябе зрабіць у лепшым чынам. Так, і таксама праверыць свой network, сваіх знаёмых, хто дзе працуе, што ў іх там адбываецца, ці шукаюць на кагосьці на працу. Хутчэй за ўсё, людзі знаходзяць працу праз знаёмых або праз знаёмых. Гэта, так, і нават кампаніі больш жадаюць наймаць тых, хто ўжо знаёмы камусьці з кампаніі. Таму гэта заўсёды і такая win-win сітуацыя.
Дзякуй. Як можна з табой звязацца?
Так, можна мне знайсці ў соседках. На LinkedIn я Ганна Шарко. Вот так мне написано Ганна Шарко Technical Recruiter Tech Systems. Гэта кампанія, дзе я працую. В LinkedIn можна знайсці, або мне написаць email hsharko, my last name, @techsystems.com. Прысылаю адразу рэзюмэ і з пытаннямі.
Дзякуй. Катя, калі у людзей будуць пытанні менавіта па коучынгу, па бізнес-коучынгу, можа нават пытанні па псіхалогіі, вось як мы атрымалі зараз з чату, як можна з табой звязацца?
Таксама LinkedIn, таксама як тут, Кхатсеева.
Дзякуй. І, Александра, як можна звязацца з табой, калі у чалавека нейкія пытанні звязаныя з законам?
Email будет лучше всего, и меня можно прогуглить, и я окажусь у вас в интернете, но у меня email aromanenko@outandgolden.com. В принципе, как вот написано здесь, можно прочитать. Да, email лучше всего для меня.
Дзякуй. Мы таксама дададзім кантактную інфармацыю ўсіх удзельнікаў, усіх нашых экспертаў у апісанні да гэтага відэа, і таксама мы дададзім спасылкі на нашы сацыяльныя сеткі. Мы будзем рабіць такія вебінары рэгулярна, мы будзем рабіць іх і на ангельскай, і на беларускай мовах. Калі у вас ёсць ідэя для бліжэйшай тэмы, калі ласка, дасылайце яе нам. Таксама, калі у вас засталіся пытанні, якія мы не асвятлілі ў нашым выпуску, калі ласка, пішыце іх у каментары, мы абавязкова вам адкажам. І зараз я пераключуся на ангельскую мову. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. Those were all of our questions for today. We had only an hour. But obviously it's not possible to cover all of it in just 1 hour, even though we can always try. So if you have any more questions that we have not answered during this stream, please leave them in the comments down below. And you can also contact us through our social media. If you have any suggestions in terms of future topics, something that would be interesting to you, something that would be important to you, please make sure to contact us, and you can do it either through social media or through our email, which we will leave in the description down below. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us live. And thanks everyone who will be watching it in the recording. We will have more events like this on a regular basis. So make sure to subscribe to our channel. And if you find this video useful, please send it to your friends or family members, colleagues. We would appreciate it very much. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks our experts, and we'll see everyone soon.
Thank you, Vera. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you.
for this opportunity.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.